Hello, and welcome to Once Upon a Time in Black History. I am your host, Tamara Shiloh, author, educator, and owner of the Multicultural Bookstore in Richmond, California, and Las Vegas, Nevada. You can also find us on my website at onceuponatimeInBlackHistory.com. Our shows are sponsored by the Multicultural Bookstore, and if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, please send me an email at tamarashiloh@gmail.com. Alrighty then, let's get this party started. Hello, and welcome back to Once Upon a Time in Black History, where we explore the untold stories that shaped our world. I'm your host, Tamara Shiloh, and today we're traveling back to the 1700s to a place many people have never heard of, but one that holds a powerful place in American history, Fort Mose, the first legally sanctioned free black settlement in what is now the United States. Imagine you're enslaved in South Carolina during the 1700s. Every day it's a fight for survival. You hear whispers of a place to the south, Spanish Florida, where freedom might be possible. It's a dangerous journey, swamps filled with snakes, dense forests, and the constant threat of being captured. But for many enslaved Africans, the promise of freedom was worth the risk. Spain, which controlled Florida at the time, had a very different attitude toward enslaved people compared to the British colonies. While slavery still existed, Spain offered freedom to those who escaped from British plantations if they converted to Catholicism and agreed to serve in the Spanish militia. The first recorded group of escapees arrived in 1687. They were 8 men, 2 women, and a young child, only 3 years old. By 1738, more than 100 formerly enslaved people had reached freedom in Spanish Florida. To protect them, the Spanish built a fortified town just north of St. Augustine. They called it Gracia Real de Santa Teresa de Mose, but most people simply know it as Fort Mose. A fortified town meant strong walls, protected gates, and safe homes. For the people who escaped slavery, Fort Mose was more than just a settlement. It was a symbol of hope. A place where black men, women, and children could live freely, own land, and build a community of their own. In fact, Fort Mose was the first free black town legally sanctioned by a European colonial government in what would become the United States. It stood as a challenge to the system of slavery that Britain depended on. But freedom was never guaranteed. In 1740, the world around Fort Mose erupted in conflict during the War of Jenkins' Ear, a fight between England and Spain that spread across 3 continents. The English sent thousands of soldiers and dozens of ships to attack St. Augustine. Their orders were brutal: capture the city, destroy Fort Mose, and return all runaway slaves to bondage. For 27 long days, the English bombarded St. Augustine. Fort Mose and its residents were in grave danger. But instead of giving up, the free black militia, led by Captain Francisco Menendez, stood their ground. Captain Menendez had once been an enslaved too. Now, as a free man and a soldier, he led his fellow warriors, men who had fought for their freedom and weren't about to give it up. Together with Spanish soldiers and Native American allies, the militia launched a daring counterattack. They briefly lost Fort Mose to the British, but then, with courage and determination, they recaptured it. The battle became known as Bloody Mose. Though violent and costly, it proved the strength and power of the community. For a time, life at Fort Mose continued. Families farmed, worshipped, and lived as free people, an extraordinary reality in an era when slavery was spreading across North America. But in 1763, Spain ceded Florida to England after losing the 7 Years' War. Once again, the residents of Fort Mose faced a heartbreaking choice: stay and risk being enslaved again, or leave everything behind. They chose freedom. The community of Fort Mose abandoned their home and traveled to Havana, Cuba, where Spain still controlled the land. Fort Mose itself was eventually destroyed by the British during the War of 1812, and over time, the site disappeared into the marshes. For many years, the story of Fort Mose was nearly forgotten. But in the 20th century, archaeologists, historians, and local citizens worked tirelessly to uncover the history buried beneath the mud. Their efforts paid off. Today, Fort Mose Historic State Park, located just north of St. Augustine, is recognized as a National Historic Landmark. Visitors can walk the grounds, learn about the people who built the first free Black settlement, and honor their bravery. Fort Mose's legacy is a powerful one. It reminds us that the quest for freedom has always been at the heart of the African American story, and that even in the darkest times, people fought for dignity, community, and hope. If you'd like to learn more, you can visit fortmose.org, check out resources from blackpast.org, or explore the story through the article The First Floridans, Fort Mose, on the Bither Southern website. That's it for today's episode of Once Upon a Time in Black History. Thank you for joining me as we explore the incredible story of Fort Mose, the place where freedom first found a home for African Americans in the United States. I'm Tamara Shiloh, and I'll be back next time with another story that inspires, informs, and empowers. Until then, keep learning, keep imagining, and keep celebrating history. Thank you for tuning in to Once Upon a Time in Black History. For more information on this topic and others, visit the Multicultural Bookstore at multiculturalbookstore.com. And again, if you want to advertise in our podcast for a mere $25, please contact me at tamarashiloh@gmail.com. See you next time.